grants, 2 of your 3 employees are 12-month employees who I know during the interview spoke of working at this project where I assigned them at the time, because I was not advised that we needed to post according to the time and the grant submission. This was done in excess and way beyond the normal scope of their workday.
And no matter how this turns out, I would hope that in the future, that if and when people are going to be hired as a group, they would understand that they all have to work together.
I think there's a heavier lift when it comes to certain requirements, if I may. And I would not treat this any different than a head coach and potential assistant coaches, where a head coach receives more of a compensation than an assistant.
Absolutely.
And as far as I'm concerned, someone who is responsible for district-wide responsibilities versus someone responsible for one building or another building has a lesser role. But
Okay, so then, if we're gonna do it that way, then maybe those 2 assistants, but they were all hired for the
Yeah.
grant. We didn't hire one to be, let's say, the head.
I'm going based on the recommendation of the individual, and I commend her for doing such. I think she recognizes that much of the work was completed and submitted to the state.
Yeah, actually, I'm honoring that individual who feels that she didn't probably contributed enough. When they compare the workload, how much each individual's work, if it is just a regular job, maybe it will be different, but for the project, when they're working divided tasks, I think she was being very honest, and I think when adults make decisions among them, I think we should all respect their decisions.
But I think educators, again, some give more and some give less. Some have talents in one area, some have it in another area. So for that reason, that's why I said that I believe they should be equitably distributed all the money. Again, I've been involved in many times in groups as an educator, and I did a lot of the work, but I didn't take any more of the money. I just said, no, it's a group and that's it. Any other discussion? Okay, so how are we going to vote on this now?
My motion stands.
I'm
The
asking-
motion to adopt
The whole,
whole
right.
thing,
All-
Yeah.
this stands.
That's the.
Mhm. Okay.
Roll call, please.
Roll call, Diane, please.
Okay, so we're voting on,
All of it.
1 through
Consent.
8.
Is there a second on the motion, on the
Yes.
resolution?
That was
Jeffrey.
Laura. But I can say no one. Roll call, please.
Tom Matarazza,
Yes on 1 through 8, no on number 3.
Stephanie Jang,
Yes, I'm taking all as yes.
Jason Kim,
Yes.
Rebecca Lee,
Yes on all.
John Madison.
Yes.
Yoon Min,
Yes.
Jeffrey Wood,
Yes.
Timothy Yang.
Yes.
Okay, next is the buildings and ground, Jason Kim.
Yeah, in front of us, we have a 4 resolution. I'd like to make a motion on this for resolution as a consent agenda.
Second,
I'll second.
discussion? Roll call, please.
Thomas Matarazza.
Yes.
Stephanie Jang. Yes. Jason Kim,
Yes.
Rebecca Lee.
Yes.
John Madison.
Yes.
Yoon Min. Jeffrey Wood,
Yes.
and Timothy Yang.
Yes.
Okay, the next one will be personnel, Mr. Wu.
Before you are 14 resolutions. I make a motion on consent agenda.
Second on that,
I'll second it.
any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Thomas Matarazza.
Yes, but I have to abstain on number 12, Mr. J. Mascolo, I have to abstain on that one. But yes on everything.
Stephanie Jang.
Yes.
Jason Kim.
Yes.
Rebecca Lee.
Yes.
John Madison.
Yes.
Yoon Min. Yes. Jeffrey Wood.
Yes.
Timothy Young.
Thank you. Next curriculum, Mr. Yang.
I don't have anything for the resolution, but I just want to give you guys an update. I met up with Ms. Howie on last Wednesday to go over the curriculums for CUSAC next year. It was a really positive meeting, and it was a really pleasure to meet with her and to discuss it and to get ready for following year. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Negotiations, Ms. Yang.
Actually, our attorney updated all about the meetings, so we're going to do it ASAP. I'm sorry, I've been saying that since February, but we're working very hard on it.
We are working hard, and I would just say that it has been the intention of the board to make sure that I get this done as soon as possible.
Okay, policy, Mrs. Jang.
I have one resolution, but including the smoking policy and administering the medication at school and wellness and nutrition. So I would like to make a motion to take this.
Second on that?
Second.
Any discussion?
Are these first readings or second?
I don't know if we have to read them.
Do we have to
twice.
read them?
Yeah.
We have the policies already.
Oh,
Just
okay.
minor updates.
Oh, they're updates, all right.
Very
Okay.
little.
We don't.
Yeah.
We don't have to read.
We don't have to lose.
We don't have to read them, okay. Okay.
Okay, roll call, please.
I'm sorry, who did the second on that?
Um,
I did.
Unman.
Sorry. Thomas Matarazzo.
Yes.
Stephanie Jang.
Yes.
Jason Kim.
Yes.
Rebecca Lee.
Yes.
John Madison.
Yes.
Young Min. Yes. Jeffrey Will.
Yes.
Timothy Young.
Yes.
Okay, move into old business.
We forgot student activities.
Oh, I'm sorry, student activities, sorry, Rebecca?
Before you, there's five resolutions, I move the consent agenda, there's also one in the new business for high school art department class trip to San Antonio.
Okay, so this one we're going
That's
through
on the-
motions 1 through 5?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, second on that?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Thomas Matarazzo.
Yes.
Stephanie Jang. Yes. Jason Kim.
Yes.
Rebecca Lee.
Yes.
John Madison.
Yes.
Young Min. Yes. Jeffrey Will.
Yes.
Timothy Young.
Yes.
Okay, next would be old business.
Mr. Choi, you did mention something in old business you would like to have a motion on?
Yes, so in closed session, we discussed the salary step increase, where I offered any objection by the board member to actually give an opportunity to the board member to object. There was no objection, but in subsequent discussions, it was my understanding that there was no formal vote on the step increase in June 2019. So there is a requirement that there should be a formal vote on the step increases. But there is something that we discussed in closed session, which I will explain briefly, is that step 1 and 2 are group steps in this category. Step 3 and 4 are group steps, and step 5 and 6 are also group steps. So whoever we move up has to move as a group. So anybody, for example, if 10 people were in step 3 and 4, they move up as a group to step 5 and 6. This affects, I forgot how many people.
Approximately 22.
22 people. And those people have not been stepped up according to the prior contract that was in effect. So the request by the board attorney is now whether the board is going to honor the step guideline and push these people forward as well. Okay? So I would request a vote.
Motion?
Someone would have to make a motion and someone would have to
I
second.
make a motion on that.
I'll second.
And the person, yes, Dr. Matarazzo would have to second. So
Mr.
motion,
Madison.
Okay,
I
can
make a
I,
motion.
motion on that, second?
I second.
discussion?
Roll call, please.
Thomas Thomas Matarazzo.
Abstention.
Stephanie Jen. Stephanie,
Yeah,
sorry.
I'll vote for no to accept. So we'll have to look into it.
Jason Kim.
Yes.
Rebecca Lee.
Yes.
John Madison.
Yes.
Yun Min.
Yes.
Jeffrey Wu.
Yes.
Timothy Yang.
Yes.
Okay, passes, be 6 yes, 1 no, 1 abstention. Okay. Next would be any new business.
I have a matter for new business, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Choi, while you're handing that out, before the board, there are 2 requests in writing on new business. I know Mr. Losa is in the audience. Number 1 pertains to Mr. Losa. Attached to number 1, resolution number 1, is some information pertaining to a field trip, trip. It's not a field trip. Well, it is a field trip because it is during school time, correct? So we treat it as a field trip in a sense that the students would be excused from the time they missed in school. Therefore, we're seeking a board resolution. I think we did this trip a few years ago in a sense.
We did the exact same trip before, we ran it the same way we do the European trips.
Wonderful. So proposed before the board is a trip to San Antonio, Texas. If there are any questions, I think Mr. Losa would be the most appropriate to answer them.
Any questions on this? If not, we'll put that under the resolution for new business. And Mr. Troy, you had,
Thank you, Mr. President. One more item of new business is that in our auditing process, we did discover that there was one individual employee that was overpaid. In gross wages, person was overpaid $3,889. Based upon the advice of the auditors, we sought to seek back the net pay of that, less the taxes and other assessments that were taken out, $2,120.61. The individual had agreed, or just recently
Has
submitted,
agreed, yes,
has
sir.
agreed to repay that amount in monthly payments, commencing immediately for 9 monthly payments at the rate of $235 plus change. The payment schedules in the second page of the attached letter. This is of course subject to board approval, so I would ask the board to consider a vote on this resolution.
separately from the other one?
That's correct.
Okay, great.
In addition, if I may, and I know there's a second request from Pastor Juan Kim for the use of Lindbergh Elementary School on Sundays beginning in January. And as I mentioned earlier, the readoption of the junior-senior handbook. And I apologize for the oversight, but I know there's a young man at the junior-senior high school who did seek a request of Lindbergh Elementary School for a car wash as an Eagle Scout project. And I would wholeheartedly, excuse me, recommend to the board that the dates being requested are Sunday, October 20th, between the hours of 9 a.m. and 1 p.m., and a rain date of Sunday, October 27th. We have accepted such requests in the past from some of our students.
And is this gonna be any cost to?
So we do have custodians working on weekends. I will do everything in my power to not incur any overtime costs, but I will, again, I know they're limited, and if it does require a few hours of overtime, knowing it's going to a great cause and a student giving back to our schools and the community, it's always a good thing.
Okay, so that'll be number 3, correct?
Sure.
Okay,
We can do these individually or collectively.
he said,
Yeah, you know, individually is
Yeah.
probably the best way to do these things.
okay, I'd like to make a motion, entertain a motion for number 1, trip to San Antonio for Ms. Belosa.
I'll make a motion.
Second on that?
That's it.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Thomas Matarazzo.
Yes.
Stephanie Jang.
Yes.
Jason Kim.
Yes.
Rebecca Lee.
Yes.
John Madison.
Yes.
Yun Min. Jeffrey Wu.
Yes.
Timothy Yang.
Yes.
Second one would, I'd like to entertain a motion from, for number 2, from Pastor Juan Kim, Presbyterian Church.
Make a motion.
Well, we didn't really decide on how much.
A
they
rate,
can
we're
pay,
just
or
seeking that,
Just seeking permission
I
first.
think Ben has to draw up
A
a
lease.
contract.
Yeah, I need to find out
The
more
square
information.
footage.
So you wanna
It's just.
wait on that?
Table it.
Yeah,
It's not
probably,
there for discussion, I mean, you don't have to tape it
Oh, we don't even have to make a motion.
no.
No.
Okay, so,
Perhaps just to discuss, we've discussed it, so, I think, it'll be more ripe for further action at the next meeting.
and it's not until December, so we have time.
But is everyone in agreement that we're willing
I'm
to,
January, I'm sorry.
Revisit that, 'cause he's,
Yeah.
Right, so we will bring that up in November's meeting,
Mhm.
because it begins on January 5th, so we do have time.
okay.
And number 3, which would be the request to use for car wash.
at Lindbergh Elementary School on Sunday, October 20th, with a rain date of Sunday, October 27th.
Make a motion.
Second on that?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Thomas Matarazza?
Yes.
Stephanie Jang?
Yes.
Jason Kim?
Yes.
Rebecca Lee?
Yes.
John Mattison?
Yes.
Lynn Min?
Yes.
Jeffrey Wu?
Yes.
Timothy Yap?
Yes.
The readoption of the junior senior handbook, please.
Yes, and the 4th one would be the adoption of the handbook for the junior, senior high school. Like to entertain a motion on that?
I make motion.
Second on that?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Thomas Matarazza?
Yes.
Stephanie Jang?
Yes.
Jason Kim? Jason?
Yes.
Rebecca Lee?
Yes.
John Mattison?
Yes.
Lynn Min?
Yes.
Jeffrey Wu?
Yes.
Timothy Yap?
Yes.
Great. And the last one would be from the Choi Law Group LLC about the reimbursement.
Approval for the reimbursement.
I'd like to entertain a motion on that.
I'll make a motion.
Second on that?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Thomas Matarazza?
Yes.
Stephanie Jang?
Yes.
Jason Kim?
Yes.
Rebecca Lee?
Yes.
John Mattison?
Yes.
Lynn Min?
Yes.
Jeffrey Wu?
Yes.
Timothy Yap?
Yes.
Great. Next, audience participation. Yes, ma'am. Please.
My name is Jane Martin. I live at 80 Brinkerhoff Terrace, and I am a very proud past employee of the Palisades Park Board of Education.
An excellent one. Excellent.
I have a question for Dr. Cirillo, but first, Mr. Kim, regarding your comment about geometry. And it goes back to contracts and negotiations. It's very difficult for the District of Palisade Park to find individuals who teach math and science unless the salary is equitable to other communities around. And that is a problem for this district for many, many years. So you gotta pay a little bit more, because then you have teachers who stay and don't go to other districts where they make more money. I have a question about the student resource officer.
Yes, ma'am.
This is a different, you use the expression, the wording SRO. This is different language than we used the last time. Are we talking about a student resource officer that needs to be trained how to interact with students? Or are we talking about an officer in the building for the expressed purpose of security only? That's my concern.
It's a great question, but I said absolutely nothing about SRO. That was Mr. Choi.
That's why I have a question.
But I do have some information, and I think I'm at liberty to share.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
I have been advised
Mm-hmm.
by the Palisades Park Police Department higher-ups that a individual has attended and been trained to be a student resource officer. I have yet to see any of that. I'm sure Mr. Choi, part of his memorandum of agreement with the borough, is seeking that information. Yes, I was advised he attended a week-long training and he completed it.
Okay, so this is a little different
A lot different.
Okay,
A lot.
and then my second question is, it would seem that this job is not being posted. Now, I understand this is coordinating with the borough and the Board of Ed.
It's not posted for the sole purpose that this is an individual who is an active police officer currently. And it's not something that the board has solicited.
Okay.
It is being offered to the board for consideration.
Right, and the only reason I'm asking questions.
Paid for by the borough at 100%.
Gotcha. And do we have any idea for how long the commitment the borough has to this?
What-
We're
that's what we're working on.
Okay.
And what the parameters and scope will be, we're working on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Lisa Lombardo, Palisades Park. It's that time of the year where I ask permission for the letters for the soldiers and the supplies. Last year's unit that received it is a neighbor of one of our teachers at the high school. They didn't respond back by writing letters to us, but it came back to me from the unit because they were special ops, they're not allowed to. But it was greatly appreciated. 2 weeks, I believe, prior to my doing all this, they lost a person. And it was during Christmas where we sent it, so this is where it all goes. I'm trying to find a family within a town that knows of anybody, so if you know anybody out in the military overseas, let me know, because I like to keep it as close to home as possible.
Melissa, I would ask that you please send me the flyer that
I'm
we have
sending you
used
the
in years
flyers.
past. I would be more than happy to share it district-wide.
Yep.
And I encourage and support such an endeavor like we always have. It's a great cause.
It does, and we always do a great collection.
Absolutely, I agree.
So, the other thing, PTA and PTSA was not on the minutes.
PTA and PTSA for the trunk or treat?
That's,
Is that what you're requesting?
yes.
Okay.
The trunk or treat would be October 26th.
Did anyone send anything in to us?
I sent Dr. Cirillo a
Oh,
flyer.
you did? Okay, Dr. Cirillo did.
Listen, he's getting old. I'm busy with this thing called a referendum, guys. I apologize.
I sent him that too.
Trunk or treat?
Trunk or treat.
Trunk or treat.
Can we go back to new business in the event we need to have another resolution, sir?
Yes. we
Thank you
can.
very much. Thank you for
And
being
as you
here
can
and
also
reminding
see,
me.
the citrus sale is out and about, which is due on November 1st. So, we're working, fundraising, having fun.
After we'll finish this, we'll go back.
New
We'll
business.
do a motion to suspend the agenda to go back to.
Go back to, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for all of your efforts, especially for all three of those items. Thank you. Any other item, anyone else in the audience? Yes, ma'am.
Maria Pasantes, 216 East Harriet. Going back to the numbers. I know they're numbers for most people. It's just like I mentioned very quickly, when you're talking about students with disabilities, it's very disturbing to see they're only in 1s and 2s and in the higher grade levels, because as we know, that's where they get lost with the transitioning from different classes. And it is upsetting to see, as both an educator and a parent of students with disabilities. So we do need to consider that. I know we always honor students who get perfect scores and all of that, but the little strides our kids with IEPs make are a lot more than 5 kids that get perfect scores. And I do worry about that because it's very concerning when you see zeros and they're only in the columns 1 and 2. They're not even in 3 and 4 where they should be. Most students with IEPs fall in 3 and 4s. These students have to prepare to go out into the world in those upper levels, and it seems like we're not doing that, and that's very upsetting because, as we know, with the inability to be successful comes frustration, comes behaviors, comes absenteeism, which is a huge problem. So all those things trickle into all the other issues that we were talking about. You can't underscore or underestimate or devalue those zeros, because those zeros cause other issues that you're having. And they mentioned the social emotional wellness in the elementary school. What is the social emotional wellness, which wasn't up there in the high school, where there are the most issues? with young adults, especially in this world today that you see on the news every day. It's very few and far in between you see things happening at the elementary level. All these shootings, all these mental health breakdowns we see, all these anxiety disorders, all this vaping, it's all happening largely in the upper levels. It all stems from being unsuccessful, I could assure you, as an educator who works with a lot of these kids. Once they start to feel defeated, the more they're discounted as, oh well, or let's classify it as economic deficiencies, all these words that we use that are so negative that I don't like. We can't discount it. As a parent, as an educator, it was sickening to see and disheartening for me. I actually have a headache because it's really upsetting. I know no one else sees it that way. It really is. Even, and you know how I feel about the SRO thing. I'm not even talking about that. I don't even care about that. This is very sad because when those kids get lost in the shuffle, where do they go? They're dropping out and they're not succeeding. This is not the Palisade. I grew up here. This is not the Palisade Park that I grew up in. It's not the one. I have a 26-year-old and a 24-year-old. Dr. Cirillo always asks me why I talk about my one son, Nicholas. There's a reason. My oldest son does not have a disability, but my son Nicholas does, a very significant disability. His IQ when he graduated this school was a 69. Anyone who's in education knows what that's called. I do not use that terminology. Thank God they changed it in the DSM-5, but at the time, it was a very degrading term. But this school at that time prepared him, and he was able to go to college, go there for 3 years. It was community instead of 2, but that was okay. He graduated from that college and works for the Morris County Prosecutor's Office with a 69 IQ. And I'm very proud of him. That's why I talk about him. Because a child who can learn, like my other children, I have 2 children who are brilliant, and some that struggle. The ones that you talk about the most are the ones no one expected to achieve, not because I discount the achievements of the ones who can learn easily, but because for the ones who can't learn, when they do and when they're successful, it makes everyone proud.
Well, I can assure you that we all do feel as you do. We
I hope
really,
so,
really do.
'cause it's
And,
so
it's more-
concerning.
Yeah, it's very, very important.
Because it
Believe me.
trickles into everything.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you.
And then the SRO. He is an officer on duty, which I'm accustomed to because ours are officers on duty. Are they being trained to be youth officers, to work with the
Yes.
youth? They are.
Yes, they are.
Very good.
Yes, they are.
And then
They
my
are.
next question is there one in each building or it's one officer?
One officer.
Working in all 3 buildings?
Yes, ma'am.
So he's just gonna go where the need is and just
Yes.
visit school to school, which is okay.
Yes.
We have that with our officers. All right.
Okay,
and
thank you very much.
Will we see the MOA
I'm
at
sorry?
some point?
I believe he's going to
It will be
review.
published at some
It
point,
will,
yeah.
okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, I'd like to go back to new business, and I'd like to entertain a motion to
Suspend the agenda to go back to.
go back to new business. Do I have a motion on that?
Yes, I'll make that.
Second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we're back to new business. This,
I am seeking a, approval of the PTA, PTSA trunk or treat, for the October 26th at Lindbergh Elementary School, from 5 to 7 PM with a rain date of the 27th of October.
which is next
And I
Saturday.
apologize for that.
Do I have a motion on that?
I'll make that one.
Second on that? Okay, any discussion? If not, roll call.
What is the rain date, October?
The
26th.
27th is the rain date, Diane. October 26th
20th?
is the proposed date. 26th is the proposed date, 27th is the rain date.
7 PM.
Same time on the rain date, correct?
Where is this?
I have it right here, Di, I'll send you the flyer.
Teacher's lot,
In the parking lot?
Yep. Back of Lindbergh.
Roll call, please.
Thomas Matarazzo?
Yes.
Stephanie Jang?
Yes.
Jason Chen?
Yes.
Rebecca Lee,
Yes.
John Madison?
Yes.
Yong Min? Jeffrey Wu?
Yes.
Timothy Yap?
Okay, if not, I'd like to call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Close session.
Oh, I'm sorry, close this and go into closed
I'll
session.
make a motion to go into closed session.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Are we gonna be coming out?
I hope so.
Okay.
Are you gonna do any?
There may not be any formal action after.
Okay.
Should not.
Thank you.
I don't think there will be.
In other words, have a good night.